No one has ever seen the Father except Jesus. This was mentioned in John chapter 1 verse 18. And the crazy part is not even the angels have seen the Father either, because in John's revelation, there's only one throne in heaven, and it's Christ that sits on that throne. So when the angels are singing praises, it goes to the Father through Jesus the Son. But even though the angels are spirits, how come they can't still see the Father? Well, picture this illustration. There is a one dimension which is represented by a dot. Then there is a second dimension which is a line that moves along the x and y axis. An example of a two-dimensional entity is our shadows. Then there is a third dimension which introduces depth. So depth is the reason why humans can't only move along the x and y axis, but on the z axis, which allows for depth. This movement now is because of we're in a three-dimensional space. Just like how shadows are a two-dimensional representation of our three-dimensional self, it's the same way we are the three-dimensional representation of a higher dimensional God. That's why the scriptures say we are made in the image and likeness of God. Don't worry, we're getting to why angels can still see the Father. I gave this example so that you can best understand this illustration I'm about to give. Comparing one dimension to two dimensions, you see one-dimensional beings, that's if they exist, cannot understand two dimension, because in one dimension nothing moves, it's just a fixed spot. So it's going to be very hard comprehending what a two-dimension is when you can't even move. It's the same way two-dimensional beings cannot fathom what depth is actually about. They can't see the things that we see, they can't feel the things that we feel, and they can't move the way we move. So it's going to be very hard or even impossible for a two-dimensional being to understand three-dimensional space. So it's the same way three-dimensional beings cannot understand or see the things of the higher dimension. Like for example, spirits. It's not like these spirits are actually trying to hide. It's just that we do not have the abilities to see higher dimensions. So in order to see spirits, they would have to give themselves a three-dimensional look so that it can fit with what we are capable of perceiving. That's why when people in the Bible saw angels, it always had a physical representation. The description that they gave was not something that we could not imagine. It's something that we could imagine and something that we could work with, but that is not the totality of a higher dimensional being. It's something that we simply cannot understand fully. So when John in Revelation wrote about seeing the glory of Christ, it was not in its totality. It was just an earthly description that best suits his understanding and our understanding. Even at that, John could not still see Christ's face because his face was shining like the sun. And that is why 1 Corinthians chapter 2 verse 9 says, "Eye has not seen, nor any ear has ever heard, nor have it ever entered into the heart of man, the things which God has prepared for those who love him." So in the Old Testament, when Moses asked God to show him his glory, God said, "No man can behold my face and live." This was in Exodus chapter 33 verse 18 to 20. And because of that, Moses had to first die to see Christ in his transfigured form. Matthew chapter 17 verse 1 to 9. Because in this way, the spirit of Moses can now witness the totality of God's glory. Because when Peter, James and John saw Jesus in his transfigured form, all they could note was that his face was shining like the sun. That's why two people can be serving the same God but experiencing separate dimensions of God's glory. It just depends on your spiritual level and your intimacy with him. So can you see the goodness of God? He gave us grace so that we can have a physical relationship with him. That's why the angel said his name will be Emmanuel, God with us. Matthew chapter 1 verse 22 to 23. So the revelation that was given to us about Jesus' name, God with us, wasn't just a revelation to us humans. It was also a revelation to the angels as well, because then they have a God that they can have a relationship with in heaven. So finally, the reason why angels cannot see the Father is because God operates in a dimension that the angels cannot simply fathom. You see, there are levels to this stuff. But it is only Jesus, the Son of the living God, that can see the Father, because he shares both glory, power and authority with the Father. John 17 verse 5. So finally, with this illustration, the three-dimensional space in which us humans live in is the outer court. The spiritual realm where the angels are staying is the inner court, and the holiest of holies is the dimension God is, and there's only one person that has access to that dimension, which is the one and only Jesus Christ. Isn't God so good? This was 28, and I'll be seeing you on the next.